Hello and welcome to the editorial analysis of the Hindu. Today we shall be discussing the editorial of the 17th of April. So coming to the first article, sealed disclosure. Now the context here is with regards to the Supreme Court's recent order on electoral bonds. There's an entire controversy that was related to electoral bonds. Several issues of what have been raised vis-a-vis the electoral bonds and their impact on making the elections more opaque. So the Supreme Court has come up with an important order in this regard. The judgment in this particular case is what is due. This was a PIL that was filed by the Association for Democratic Reforms in the Supreme Court, and in this particular case the Supreme Court has given a temporary or an interim order, not a judgment. So what can be analyzed from this particular order itself is what has been discussed in this particular article. It is a very important issue. So coming to the first issue, first and foremost you should know that what this order is all about. Now in this particular order, the Supreme Court has made it mandatory on the political parties to disclose about the donations that are being made to them by electoral bonds, and this disclosure is what is to be made at present in closed envelopes to the Election Commission of India. So this is what the order is. Now what you need to understand here is about the opaqueness of the electoral bonds. Now what happens under the electoral bonds is, I'm sure by now many of you might be aware of this, because in previous many articles I have discussed electoral bonds in very much detail. Now what happens in electoral bonds is that some banks, some public sector banks are what are selected by the government, and these banks are offering some bonds which are known as the electoral bonds. So a person will go to these banks and the person will buy electoral bonds from this particular bank worth any amount of money that he wants to donate. Then once these bonds are what are purchased, these bonds are what are given to a political party. Then this political party again goes back to the bank, and the bank is going to take the bond back and give the money to the political party. So this is the system of electoral donation. Now what happens in this is that this person who is originally buying these bonds is not supposed to reveal his identity. So as a result of which, this donation is what is being made in a very secretive and an anonymous manner. Now the political parties say that this is what is required for ensuring that the privacy of the donor is maintained. But in this entire system, the donation is what is becoming highly opaque. Also some safeguards that were there on these kind of donations that were being made to political parties are done away with. For instance, previously a company which had a stay of approximately 3 years, only a company that was 3 years old could make a donation to a political party. This requirement is not required now. Also foreign companies can now donate to political parties. So these entire donation around political parties for elections is something that has become very opaque in the aftermath of the electoral bond scheme, and this is the entire controversy because of which the PIL was what was filed in the Supreme Court, and this order is what has come. Next, you need to know something about the status quo. Now this is something that is mentioned in regards to this particular order. Now as you all know that this order is now asking for the parties to make a disclosure to the Election Commission of India, but in closed envelopes only. So definitely a status quo is what is maintained, because the judgment in this case has not come. So at present things will be as they are going on. Even if a political party has received some undue benefit because of the electoral bonds, that benefit continues, and the impact that benefit is going to happen on elections of 2019 is something that is going to continue. So no major change in these current elections is what is going to happen after the Supreme Court's order is what has been discussed. Next, you need to know about making the information public. Now here the public has the right to know. The public is supreme in India, and that is what is the entire crux and gist of our democratic setup. But in this particular case, the Supreme Court has asked for making the disclosure only to the Election Commission of India. So the public is not going to know that which person or which, for that matter, industrial sector or industrial company has made a contribution to which political party. So the public definitely has a right to know, and this is what should be divulged to the public. Next is the issue of the sanctity of the electoral process, which in this particular case is in question, because it might happen that the leading government has got some benefits from one particular party, and as a result of which the opposition is what is damaged. So this entire issue is somehow becoming very opaque and very complex, and this itself is questioning the sanctity of this current election process is what has been analyzed. Next is the issue of black money. Now always a major source of black money in India has been the elections. Many companies rule route their black money into the elections to make it white also. What happens is that they form some companies which are known as shell companies, which are short-term fake companies, and through these shell companies, they make that an investment in the political parties of India, and thus bringing back their black money back into the economy. So this is one issue that is something that is being encouraged, or rather being propagated under the electoral bond scheme. So that is one issue that is emerging. Next, what has been discussed here is the benefit that the government in power has. Now, as I told you, that it is only the public sector bank which will know that who has purchased this electoral bond from this particular bank, and the government in power has a direct access over all the public sector banks. So it might just happen that a person wants to make a donation to an opposition party, but might just get deterred because he has a fear that the knowledge of his donation to the opposition party is what can be found out by the government, and this in the long run could negatively impact this particular person. So this is something that is a cause of concern here, and this is what is an undue advantage or undue benefit that is being given to the government. Next is the issue of an early verdict. Now, as I mentioned, this particular case is, or this particular issue or this particular context here is only of an order which has been passed by the Supreme Court, and largely a verdict is what has not come. And because a verdict has not come, a resolution of this particular problem in India is what has not happened, and this is going to impact the elections of 2019, which will forever be scarred if in the future the Supreme Court does away with the concept of electoral bonds or brings about transparency in the electoral bonds. Then the election of 2019 will always be known to be somehow not honest or not fair in that manner. So that is something that is going to always exist. So in light of this, what is important is that the Supreme Court comes up with a verdict as soon as possible. Considering the sensitivity of this particular case, the Supreme Court should come with an optimal judgment is what has been called for in this particular article. This is a very, very important topic for General Studies paper 2. Electoral bonds are one of the most hot topics for this paper. So please cover this topic and make a note of all these points. It is very, very important. And this is the only topic for today's discussion. All the other articles that I have read in today's editorial are highly political. In fact, one article is largely a blatant criticism of the ruling government. So you do not have to delve into such kind of articles. So they are not of much relevance to us. Please take a look at our batches here. We are starting with an IAS prelims revision batch from the 20th of April. So all the students who are interested, please do get in touch with us. These are our contact details. And with this, we finish today's discussion. I thank you all for watching the video.